Hello my Mercurial mercenaries, vlog 26. So the BBC, who are the British Broadcasting Corporation, TV, what would you call it in around the world, sort of TV network in the UK, well in Britain, hence British Broadcasting Corporation, they were forced to release figures on how much they pay the staff working on the BBC. Now, the bosses at the BBC didn't want to disclose how much they pay their stars, and their reasoning was quite right, because they said it's a poacher's charter. If you tell everybody what you pay your top people, or your people in general, then someone else can just come in and poach them from under your nose. It kind of makes sense. But anyway, the difference between the BBC and a lot of the other TV networks in the world is that the BBC is funded by a licence fee that all the British people have to pay. So you could call it a tax. So the BBC is funded by the public, kind of whether they watch it or not. So the public take great interest in how much of their tax money, basically, is being used to pay these people. So that's where some of this outrage has come from. And there's two strands to the outrage. First strand is how much of our tax money is going to these people, how much are they getting paid? And the second strand is the sexist angle. Are men getting paid more than women? And if so, why is that? But let's concentrate on strand number one. So the top 96 earners, 2/3 are men. That falls into the sexist argument. The top 7 people are all men. When you go to the top person, Chris Evans, he's paid £2.2 million a year. 2.2 million. And there's been a bit of outrage about this. Now, let me put the case out there right now. I'm not really a fan of Chris Evans, but I'm still able to be quite open about this. He gets paid £2.2 million a year, and I don't know what his response to that was, because I haven't researched it, because there's no research on this channel. You know when eggs have still got feathers on them? Let me just crack a couple of eggs. Oh great, I'm going to blame it on trying to be on YouTube at the same time, but a bloody bit of shell just went in there. Oh, who cares? I can handle a shell. Does shell digest? I mean, that was appalling. I'm definitely blaming that. Let me get a teaspoon out. I'm definitely blaming that on trying to record at the same time. I don't usually talk my way through making eggs. Hang on. A lot of you out there, most of you out there are going to say, who's Chris Evans then? And what's the outrage? Well, Chris Evans is a person who most of the country claim they don't like, and yet he presents one of the breakfast shows on the radio. And he has done for, I think, 7 years now, something like that. And he basically presents it every morning. So he has to get up incredibly early every morning, and he has done for 7 years. And there are people out there, because they listen to him every morning, they feel like he's part of the family. The Perfect 10 certainly does, although that makes him part of my family. Chris Evans is no part of my family. But they feel like they know him. And he gets up every morning, like I say, for 7 years. And he's an institution. The BBC obviously feel he's worth that money, and there are other companies out there who would love to have a piece of him. So the BBC would say he's being paid appropriately, wouldn't they? And if I was Chris Evans, my response would be, yeah, I'm being paid £2.2 million a year, and I'm worth every penny of it. Thank you very much. When I close my door. I mean, there's certain things that someone who's on the radio every single morning and is paid £2.2 million. There's certain liberties they do give up. There are downsides to being famous, I would assume. The next best paid person is Gary Lineker. He's 1.7 million, something like that. And now Gary Lineker is a sports star. He was a famous footballer, one of our top scoring international footballers of all time. And he kind of presents, he presents Match of the Day, things like that, sports shows. And the fact is, he's a talent that people want to see, which is why the BBC pay him a lot of money to keep him. His response was good. I can't remember it word for word, but he tweeted something like, "I'm shocked by this revelation. I'm really sorry. I can't believe I'm being paid less than Chris Evans. Got to have a word with my agent." I thought that was brilliant. Brilliant, humorous response. I'm sure it got him some shit, but I liked that response. And now we're into that thing of how much is anyone worth? Because there's YouTubers out there who are making £1 million a month. There's not many of them, but they're out there. And when you look at the sort of stuff they produce, a lot of it is complete and utter bullshit. And it's the degradation of society, and it's the downfall. It's like the downfall of the Roman Empire when you look at some of this shit on YouTube. And they're being paid £1 million a month. And we're up in arms that Chris Evans and Gary Lineker are being paid $2 million a year. We've got our priorities wrong somewhere. But the top 7 people in the list of 96 odd, the top 7 people are men. And it turns out that, so Chris Evans gets paid 2.2 million, which is 4 times the amount of the top paid woman. And the top paid woman is Claudia Winkleman. Is that a case of sexism? Or is that a case that Chris Evans is worth, to the people who like him, is worth 4 times more than Claudia Winkleman? Now, I'm not sure what Claudia Winkleman does. She's probably got a radio show too. She probably has. I expect she has. I only know her from Strictly Come Dancing. But I know that the people who listen to the morning radio show who like Chris Evans, they like him, they strongly like him. And the reason the BBC pays him so much is because they want that presence. They want it. I think if you look at the likes of some of the other channels, if they had to disclose how much they pay, if Sky had to disclose how much they pay people, in America, if ABC or NBC or whatever your channels are called over there, if they had to, or HBO, if they had to disclose how much they paid, and you put them all alongside, you'd probably find the BBC aren't even up there. It's just the fact that it's taxpayers' money that's got everyone riled up. When it comes to the sexism part, there's an element, I don't want to touch too much on that because that just enrages people, but there's a little element I can see straight away there's an element of that there. Because you've got a programme like Newsnight, which is a news current affairs programme that's shown every night here in the UK. And you've got a male presenter and you've got a female presenter. And the male presenter's paid a lot more than the female presenter. So that seems, on the face of it, inherently unfair. But there's an element of talent here as well, because Gary Lineker, who's the second highest paid, 1.7 million or something, his equivalent, female equivalent, would be someone like Claire Balding, I think, who's a female presenter, who's way down the list. But it could just be that Gary Lineker is inherently worth paying more money to on your channel. If the BBC wanted to have an afternoon talk show hosted by Beyonce or Gwyneth Paltrow or Madonna, I'm sure they'd be paying one of those women probably more than 2 million a year. They'd probably top the rankings rather in the pay. But they're not paying those people because those people probably don't want to do that on the BBC. But if the BBC offered them 3 million a year to do it, perhaps they got to compare like with like. So my point is, to end this vlog today, the British public are up in arms that Chris Evans gets paid £2.2 million a year. But no one cares that the top guy on YouTube gets paid £1 million a month. They would say that that's because he's not being funded by taxpayers' money and it's entrepreneurial talent at work. But I don't know. I don't know. We live in a society where people are paid what they're worth, and people are paid what people are prepared to pay them. So I think it's a bit sad if some of the people at the top of this list feel anxious or nervous today after the disclosure. What they should do is just go out, confront the journalists and just say, yeah, I'm being paid what I'm worth, and I'm worth every penny. That's how I'd handle it. But then, what do I know? I certainly don't get paid £1 million a month. I get paid zero at the moment. I'll have to look on Social Blade and see what Social Blade says the Mercurial number 6 earns. But so far I've got that much. I should start monetising my videos, I suppose. It doesn't feel worth monetising my videos. I don't think 50 monetised views is worth... I'm not sure that could even buy that much salt. That was vlog 26. Over and out.